They've been mowing the shit out of that grass for like a hot hour and a half. So hopefully you don't hear it. But if you do, sometimes the cookie, it crumbles. What can I say? Hello, everyone. It's Kendall here. If you're new around here, welcome. If you're not new around here, what is up, home skillet biscuit? Happy Saturday. If you don't know what Saturday is when I do a little something on my channel called Bad Movies in a Beat. The series on my channel where I talk about bad movies while putting my makeup on. But admittedly, I am currently dropping eggs and have like 14% of my like brain capacity that I have throughout the rest of the month. So I procrastinated like a motherfucker to get this video done. Makeup's done already. And I'm wearing glasses, so that's when you know I'm over it. Yeah, I missed last week because I was down in Florida watching one of my close friends get married. And this week almost didn't happen because, again, I'm getting stabbed by my own uterus. I'm currently leaning back, not because I'm feeling loungy and relaxed and everything. It's because I have a heating pad on that's searing into my spinal column. It's been a rush of emotions. Super highs, super lows, but that's life. Another thing that is life is regardless of how you feel on the emotional spectrum, bills will always be there to welcome you. So sending it over to Admiral Kennie, who's going to secure that my lights stay on. Thank you. Hi, I just yawned. So if my eyes are watering, that's why. Hello everyone, it's Admiral Kennie to let you know that today's video is sponsored by HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit delivery service that allows you to have fresh, delicious, and healthy meals sent straight to your own doorstep. Most meals can be made in under 30 minutes. If you're a G like me who's been doing it for a while, you can probably get it done in about 20. It takes the stress out of meal prep. Currently, I am doing a thing where I'm trying not to buy groceries because I don't want to waste food, but I will do HelloFresh because I don't have to go out and get it. It just comes to me. Environmental, not spending gas either. But it allows me to know that when I'm making a meal, I'm not going to waste anything afterwards. I'm not going to have like, ginger's a really hard thing to use all of. Have you ever noticed that? Like fresh ginger, but nothing tastes quite as good if you're using like the jelly stuff, that stuff that's already pre-pureed and stuff, not good. But when you use fresh ginger, you can't use up 6 inches of ginger. So when you get a little half-inch block of it for the one meal you're making, amazing. And then you don't waste it. The food is delicious. Everything's pre-portioned, pre-shopped for. And then when you're done putting stuff together, all messy cleanup can be put within the same bag. And it's great. I love it. You're also sure to find something that meets your particular dietary needs, whether that be pescatarian, vegetarian, whether you're trying to like lower your amount of carb consumption, you know, it's up to you. You can also skip a week if you're on vacation or something. Summer's coming up. I've been doing HelloFresh long enough that I have favorites now. Rule of thumb, if it's anything with what is it called? Brown sugar season, brown sugar bourbon, do it. I've tried it with chicken. I've tried it with pork now. Anything Asian inspired, bangs, soups. They be hitting with the soups and the chilies. They were doing it. I don't even know if I recorded film of it, but I had a chicken, lemon, dill, creamy couscous type situation. Fire. Also, specifically, if you get any of their pasta dishes, I don't know who 2 people you feeding. That can feed like 8 people. So if you would like to check out HelloFresh, feel free to check it out at HelloFresh.com and use code Kennie16 for 16 free meals plus 3 surprise gifts. Big thanks again to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get on to the debauchery, baby. Oh, I also forgot to mention, look, you can see my hair now. I haven't had my hair out in a video in a very long time, but that's because I f***ed up my hairline. For those of you that follow me on Twitter, you know that already. I got my edges back. And a lot of people have been asking me how I got my edges back, so I should just make a video when I get around to that. But yeah, I got my edges back. And I can put it in a bun. And I can pay it back. Again, 14% of my brain capacity. My head is all over the place. Last time we were here, though, we talked about the sequel to 365 that no one asked for and no one wanted. Well, it exists. The book exists, so somebody must have wanted it. Damn you, Poland. You're the reason we're here. But we watched the second 365 movie called 365 This Day. And it made a great video. The movie sucked, but the video was one of my better ones. Check that out. That'll be linked up above and also in the Bad Movies in a Beat playlist. So today, though, we are returning to our frenemies over at Passionflix. If you've heard of Passionflix, it's probably my fault. If you haven't heard about Passionflix, well, you're gonna learn you something so hard today. It came to my attention that some of the girls over on TikTok had discovered Passionflix. Bitch, I'm a mother! Anyway, today we're talking about Passionflix. If you don't know what it is, apparently it is Elon Musk's sister, Tosca Musk's company, that is devoted to creating and producing and distributing terrible romance content for the most part. Romance movie adaptations, most likely, from equally terrible romance books. We have discussed several of the films that you can find on Passionflix at this point. Apparently, I found out they also have series, like a few. When I get the time, baby. I've always likened it to like a Lifetime Hallmark channel, but with an R rating, so they can say F-bombs and show titties. Also, if you've been on my channel following my kind of story arcs with stuff from Passionflix, I've been talking a lot about a very particular film series on there right now, Gabriel's Inferno, and because of that, I've kind of like honed in on that and didn't like branch out into the other garbage that is on there. And I said, let's step away from Gabriel for a bit. They apparently just came out with another movie. Look at something that's more of just like a singular, or at least so far, singular one-off movie that is also bad in all the ways that we expect from any film adaptation based off of a romance novel. Today we're talking about Tangled, not to be confused with the bitch with the bundles that lives in the tower. Tangled is a 2022 adaptation of the 2013 novel by the same name, and it's a romance novel about a brooding, successful white dude who does important things, who's a ladies' man, who can't keep the bitches off of him, who falls in love with the one girl that doesn't want him. But the one thing that's both interesting and terrifying about this movie is that it's told from the man's point of view. Egad, the horror. I watched the movie several days ago, and it was a very much so awful experience, as much as I expect anything from Passionflix / anything that's based off of a romance novel. And again, told from the viewpoint of a man. Ugh. Can you imagine living in a man's mind? But what was actually even more terrifying to me, I realized maybe hours after I saw the film, as I was kind of looking into the book that inspired it, I realized apparently I've read this book. I remembered reading the book. It's actually a series of books, again, called Tangled. And if I'm not mistaken, I read 2 of the books, 2 or 3, probably 2 of the Tangled series. Well, all growing up, I had loved like romance stuff. My mother was a hopeless romantic, so I got it honestly. But as I grew up and more cynical, I found myself in this weird position where I was like, okay, romance is arguably really harmful, especially when we don't kind of like talk about a lot of the creepy, misogynist, violent, rapey things that are kind of par for the course of romance in a traditional sense. So I was kind of unpacking that. And in the course of doing so, I was looking for novels that were hopefully a little bit subversive of all those things. I could really go on and on about like my evolving relationship with the concept of romance as a genre. I actually ended up I'm going way off topic, this is not written down, but a few months ago I actually ended back at my alma mater, Go Blue, University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, AA. And I was talking to, she wasn't my professor, but she was a professor of a department that I was working with. And she's maybe watching this, I don't know. Hi! We ended up having a very fascinating conversation about romance, and she is this very like stoic, very incredibly, impressively, intimidatingly intelligent woman who was talking to me in depth about how she loves bodice rippers. The duality, I love it, queen. And we were really talking about romance as a genre, and she said at one point, like, if I ever wanted to do a video and like bring her on as a professor, maybe I should do that. I might email her. I haven't really prepared. Where was I going with this? Anyway, at a different part of this storyline of me like unpacking my whole thoughts around romance as a genre, I had at a point where I was reading a lot of romance novels all at once. And at the time, I remembered the reason I was reading so much of them is because I was kind of working through my thoughts around romance and what I like and what I don't like about romance, hoping to find one that was good. One of them was Tangled. But the thing that I found interesting about it is that it was, told from a man's point of view, which I think, at least in the experience I've had in reading this particular genre, is very underrepresented and underutilized. The author of the book is Emma Chase, so I'm assuming that's someone who identifies as a woman, but I don't know. But they're writing a man, and the way they chose to write him is fascinating. But that was the thing that was interesting. Considered a very women-driven genre, and women who drive the narrative of that genre, romance, is usually, if you're going to do like a first-person type thing, it's often told by the woman, if it's a heterosexual couple. So I was intrigued by that. Fast forward however many years since it's been, that element is what makes this movie so much more off-putting. Because we follow the main character, his name is Drew. Follow him, his kind of thoughts around sex and women. Like, we have to follow this like incredibly narcissistic and immature and shitty dude just so that he can have some semblance of a redemption arc. Bad enough to just have him like separate from us, but we're forced inside. And it's terrible. We are following this person who is toxic. And I think in romance, we kind of romanticize that because we're because we're separate from him. But existing in the mind of that toxic man is bad. It's insufferable. It makes you wonder how this is a romance. And I think this is a perfect example of like, when you tell a romance story, like the toxic, weird, borderline serial killer, Twilight-esque, like obsessive love stories, if you tell it from the guy's point of view, it's literally a horror. It wasn't Midnight Sun. A lot of people were like, wow, he's really insane. If you watch it from his point of view, like you walk the road of him justifying breaking into her home and watching her sleep. Like, terrifying. This is a less aggressive form of that, but equally as awful and off-putting of an experience. This movie has all of the toxic romance accoutrements, as you would expect, especially from Passionflix. We have a terribly written, terribly dialogued, terribly performed, terribly lit, shot, edited film. Passionflix. Self-absorbed, egotistical jackass as our main lead, but he's considered attractive in the canon of the film, so they just look past it. He's probably rich for some unexplained or explained reason. And then we watch him encroach on her boundaries in every direction and think of that as like taking charge and being romantic and being an alpha male. And of course, again, him doing things that in real life should be seen as disturbing and off-putting and terrifying, but we again think of this as a romance movie, so it's great. But Tangled is the story of Drew, who is an arrogant finance dude in New York. He lives this bachelor lifestyle, leaving nothing but panties and broken hearts behind him. That is until he meets Kate, the new hire at his finance firm, who has become his next target, only she is the one woman he's ever gone up to who is not available to him. She does not agree to his advances. She's engaged to a man named Billy that she's known ever since she was a child. Does he just let that go? Absolutely not. We wouldn't have a movie. So thus commences an off-putting onslaught of events to get to the ultimate climax of which they, Drew and Kate, end up into a relationship that he ruins because of his own ego and insecurities. He has to encroach on her boundaries to get her back. That is the very dwindled down version of this book and the movie. So if you would like to know what's happening more specifically though, I'm here to take you along for the ride. So without further ado, this is Tangled 2022. So the movie begins with our main character, Drew. He seems to be having a hard time, claims that he has the flu and that it's been taking him out. But we soon learn that that is not actually the case. He is not sick. He is heartbroken. This is, again, a Passionflix movie, so all of the things that we expect from Passionflix are there. It's terribly written, it's terribly lit, it's terribly performed. What a fun addition to this film, again, because we're supposed to be existing within the mind of a man. Oh, he breaks the fourth wall to address the audience directly.
It's the bitch, otherwise known as my sister, Alexandra. I mean it in the most affectionate way possible, I swear. but it's what she is.
So his sister has come to visit him, the bitch, as he so affectionately calls her, because she's trying to figure out what is going on. You keep saying you have the flu, you don't have the flu, you're heartbroken. And so once she comes in, he commences to tell us how he got to this state. But we see Drew at a bar or a club of some sort, post-coitally referring to us again by breaking the fourth wall. And he kind of just says like, I'm a bag a stranger in the bathroom type of guy, one and done.
I'm not the kind of guy who likes to ride the same roller coaster twice.
Riveting. At said bar, he ends up meeting the woman that's going to have his attention for this whole movie, Kate. And you can see that from the jump, he's like, oh, she's very attractive. I'm drawn to her. So he goes up to her. Dick's still wet from the last chick. And he's like, hey, let's get out of here. And she's like, no. He just like says more words like, I got money. I work at an investment banking firm. Let's get out of here. Let's do it. And I'm like, for a man who claims to be like incredibly like popular with women, I can't imagine this is how you did it. No, I am here with friends and also I'm engaged. Now, despite learning that she's literally in a very serious committed relationship, he's like, semantics, honestly. Like I sure, you are committed to Billy. I don't like relationships. I don't do relationships. I don't see why any of these two things should stop us from knowing each other in a biblical sense. Again, I don't want to harp on this because this is a lot of the movie, is hearing him just say awful, off-putting things and us supposed to be finding it endearing, charming, even panty wetting, one may say. It's all so off-putting that I just kept asking myself, like, would this work for him? She turns him down, again, engaged, and he just has like a serendipitous threesome offered to him soon after, so I guess he got over it. I don't know. As mentioned before, Drew works at this high-level investment firm thing in the city. His father is one of the founders of said firm. This movie is very big on trying to gaslight me into thinking that nepotism had nothing to do with why this kid is working here. Sure. Crazy, should we think so? The next day at work, he is introduced to their new hire, who is serendipitously Kate. For some reason, because he's never heard of like a sexual harassment suit, he doesn't think like, now that we're in a work environment, I should chill out a bit. But he literally keeps flirting with her. And it's like, babe, your job, her job. Well, I guess he doesn't care. He's one of the boss's son. Hashtag no nepo. Speaking of no nepotism, his father, Drew's father, was basically telling Drew that he was going to give this new potential client to Kate to try to reel him in because he bitched about it. He's like, she just got here. Like, I can do it. He decides, fine, I'll put up a situation where you and her can devise investment plan for that client, and then we'll choose who has the better plan. Mind you, it was hers already, but no nepo. Now it's a competition, apparently. And this begins one of the many arcs of this movie. This movie has so many things going on, but also nothing at the same time. But in this arc, this is when we start the enemy/rivals to lovers arc, which I can like. I'm into. If done certain ways, I think it's really cute. Because this movie, again, could have a thriller like background music and then be sufficiently terrifying. Doesn't work as much on me here. But anyway, so they both prepare kind of a general talk to present for this guy and starts the rival arc. He's like taking books that she can't get to in time. They're both racing each other to get to work earlier than the last person. Very petty, but so far, like, I could see it being cute and kind of fun. I do vaguely remember that in the book, and I thought that was cute, like getting there at like 4 a.m. just to be there before the other person. At the end of which, they both present their presentations to Drew's father, and he's like, well, you have precision and certain things, and you have charisma. I'll just put you two together and you'll both go to the guy and try to get him to join on to our investment firm. And who would have saw it coming? This puts them in a predicament in which now they have to spend a lot more one-on-one time together, because now they're gonna be a team. Like, as this is coming out of my mouth, I could see this being a premise. I could see why I read this book, because I like the idea, a lot of these like tropes in romance, the like rivals to lovers, enemies to lovers. But Drew is so insufferable. So it's kind of just like this like wading through glue, trying to figure out when we get to a part that's worth all of this, and you never really get there. Speaking of which, I don't know how they get here, but they start making out. Like, just suddenly. He said something incredibly off-putting that would have literally resulted in him getting decked in the mouth.
I've literally never met anyone in my entire life who needs to get laid half as badly as you do. Not sure what your fiance's been doing with you, but whatever it is, he ain't doing it right.
But for some reason, the same words, you know, put her coochie at attention. So I guess, you know, different strokes, different folks. She's like, I can't do this. Billy, my engagement. And he's like, you can stay with him. Let me romantic, incredibly. So like, seriously, my job, my engagement, this is not worth it. Get off of me. Which, if only we would have stuck to our guns, stuck to our intuition, babe. Your boss's son, who also works there, would result possibly in you losing your job and your fiance. And if you don't him, you just complain about his sexual advances at work to his father, probably not a whole lot would happen. This just sounds like a horror. Again, change the background music. This is terrible. The next few days, they act like it didn't happen and they're able to meet up with this new client. Things seem to be going well, but all of a sudden we see Drew have this very, very jealous, petty, he's just so off-putting. He basically tells her, the guy goes to the bathroom, she turns to Drew and she's like, wow, it's going well. Don't you think it's going well? And he's like, yeah, because you got your tits out, just put him in his face already. You're over here looking like a slut. Later, she goes to the bathroom and the client, who's this older misogynistic shithead, is basically like, I'll sign off and if you send the brunette to my apartment alone later. Misogyny. Apparently Drew doesn't have the self-awareness to be upset with himself or his own similar thought processes with this woman. He gets very upset at the client for being like, you misogynistic dickhead, I'm not a pimp, she's not a whore. And I was like, you were basically saying she was like 5 minutes ago. Like, both of you, you're no better. But I'm supposed to think he is, right? I'm supposed to, at least I'm not a sex trafficker. I'm like, your bar is so low, my God. Kate comes back. She didn't hear this whole like blow up between the two of them. Drew's kind of like, I messed it up. It's not going to work. And she's like, oh, let me see if I can talk to him and see if I can like patch things up a bit. And then he starts to like make advances towards her, and that's when Drew comes in, goes off exploding about like, we don't work with coercive douchebags who use their power to influence women to do blah blah. And I'm like, aren't you trying to fuck her and you're the boss's son? Again, the self-reflection is very lacking in this man's mind, and we're just forced to be here like a prison. It's great. Kate feels like shit because Drew and the guy made her feel like shit. Drew he doesn't apologize. I'm gonna say he apologizes. He said something along the lines of like, I was a dick. And I guess that's the closest we're getting. They go for a drink afterwards, play like truth or drink. And at some point she asks him like, oh, have you ever been in love? And he drinks and then continues to explain why he hadn't been in love, which is like not how you play truth or drink. Love is too complicated. I'm a simple guy.
Something you've done 10 times.
I've had sex with 10 women in 1 week. Yeah, spring break, Cancun.
Oh, is that supposed to impress me?
Yeah, it impresses most women.
Dude, the only thing impressive about having sex with 10 women in a week is your time management skills. As they get closer, she brings up her fiance. Again, someone she's been dating since she was quite young. They met when she was 15 and they've been dating ever since. She's now in her mid-20s. Like in a band or something, and she also used to be in a band, and that's kind of how they got closer as kids. And then she just, you know, decided to go a different route. He still plays music. She sings at the bar, which was really random, but it's one of the things that gets him to fall in love with her, I guess, so sure. And later that night, we actually meet the fiance because he comes to pick her up because she's drunk. And immediately, you know, we have the alpha male show off.
Is it just me? Or does this guy look like a douchebag to you too?
No, not Not particularly. He looks kind of like a hamster with intelligence. Like a hamster with a lot to say. I'm not going to explain that further either. It just makes sense to me, and that's all I needed to do. Anyway, later we find that Drew's kind of trying to move on. He's sleeping with other women, yada, yada, yada. He's dating other people. And they seem to have been garnering quite a friendship, albeit he still kind of steps over the line more often than not. But one day she introduces a friend of hers, Dee Dee, to Drew and all of his guy friends, and one of his friends takes an interest in her. And for some reason, she also takes an interest in him after he says some of just the worst shit.
Dolores is a gorgeous name for a gorgeous woman, and plus it rhymes with clitoris.
Jesus.
Anyways.
And this is working on a grown woman. Like a woman, a 26-year-old woman. This is working. Wow. Fast forward, and the office has a Thanksgiving party. Drew is upset because Kate brings her fiance, because why wouldn't she? And he ends up saying some really like rude, condescending, embarrassing shit to the guy who's just existing. Later, Kate pulls him to the side and she's like, you cannot keep doing this. This is disgusting. It's incredibly entitled. Anyway, they argue again and make out again. Sure. The sheer entitlement of Drew is wild and overwhelming. Oh my God. This person that has not agreed to be anything romantic with you. Now you insult their partner who they've been with for 15 years just because she doesn't want to be with you. Like, he's just, he's terrible. It'd be different, not completely, but I would get it more if they like had a thing and then she got a new guy, but they've been nothing. They worked together and made out once that she regretted. So like, why do you think you have carte blanche to be a dick? Like, because he's an entitled dick nugget. That's why. But fast forward, Billy and Kate actually end up breaking up. And now Drew is like, oh, like, I can comfort her. And also, she's single. I guess he has at least a little bit of decency that he even says to himself, like, I don't want to be with her because she's vulnerable. I don't want to be with her because she's lonely and she just broke up with someone. I want to be with her, and I want her to want to be with me because she wants to be with me. So I'm like, good. Great. The only right choice you made this entire movie so far. This is the closest we'll see him have any like inward triggered code of ethics around anything for that matter. But at least he didn't want to be a rebound. They do end up spending more time together, again, getting drinks and stuff after work. They go to a club and they end up seeing Billy there, and he sees them together. And Drew was like, hey, let's dance as if we don't know that he's here, because that'll make him really upset, because like no dude wants to see their ex with another dude and see that she's moved on, you know what I mean? And they end up kissing on the dance floor. Billy sees it and rushes out. And then after that, it's on like Donkey Kong. They get to which obviously, if you're watching a Passionflix movie, that's what we're waiting for anyway. It lasts through 2 songs, both of which were pretty good. So it's good to know that Passionflix usually stays within that general phenomenon of like terrible movies having decent soundtracks, if not good soundtracks. But they have a really nice weekend together. They spend time together, they talk, they get closer. They talk about how she felt about him the first time they met. And for some reason, she says it was one of the only times that I wished I were single. And I'm like, this interaction?
It has been a pleasure.
You let me take you out of here tonight, and I will give the word pleasure a whole new meaning.
The one that I saw too, the one that we all saw, that was the one that we're like, damn, I wish I could do it. I wish I were like this nigga. No, it almost abruptly ends at one point because his phone rings and apparently answers on its own, in which his friend on the speaker is like, hey, I got more chicks to bang for you.
Someone here wants to see you.
Drew, it's Stacy. I missed you, baby.
Very realistic sequence of events. So she's like, okay, let me leave. This was a mistake. He ends up getting her to stay, and they spend more time together, more weekends together. After they've had sex several times over this weekend, they run out of this like comically large box of condoms. That's that Costco pack. They run out of condoms and have sex without one. And at that point, he was like, wow, that's when I realized I was in love. But Monday comes around. They walk into work together. They kiss on the way there, which I wouldn't imagine is like great at the workplace. I'm sure they would be a little concerned about that. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. He is the boss's son. But when they get there, another thing apparently they don't give a is strangers just busking in the middle of the hallway, because here comes Billy singing his sad songs like I Want You Back, flowers and shit on the floor. Somebody got to clean that up. And he's like, I want to get back together. I want us to be back together, Kate. She goes up to Billy and she's like, we need to talk or whatever. And Drew takes this as, oh, they're going to get back together. She's going to pick him over me. As we may have noticed, Drew is not the most mature and self-aware person there is. When she comes back to talk to him, she's just saying like, yeah, I'm happy we had that conversation. It was something that we really needed to do. He takes that as a they're back together, or she wants to get back together with him, and decides, oh, I'm going to take this time to be a dick like I usually am, and pretend to talk to another woman on the phone and set up a date with her. So obviously Kate hurt and disgusted, and Drew is wallowing in his own self-pity that he created in and of himself just by not talking to her about like what happened. And so he claims to have the flu, takes work off for like a week, and just does nothing but wallow in ice cream and pizza. Baby, we are on the same page there. Which sends us back to the beginning of the movie. His sister is calling him self-involved, self-important, self-centered, and spoiled, which, amen. You over here swimming in a pool of your own tears and being a little bitch when you could have just talked to her about it, or just said, I have feelings for you. I would like to be with you. But instead, because you're so used to everybody giving you everything and everybody going out of their way to chase you, you don't know how to like be assertive in being with anyone that you want, because you're a little bitch. Yeah, she's pretty accurate. So instead, he decides to untie his testicles and actually go back to Kate and tell him how he feels. I'm in love with you. I'm so sorry for what I did. I did it because I was scared and I was in love with you and I thought you took Billy back, but you didn't, and I want to start over. But at this point, she's just like, no. Girl, I know you're not going to keep up that resolve, but that's where the movie should have ended. Like, no. Like, I knew you to be a dick. I heard you were a dick. I heard you were a playboy. Everybody told me that you were sleeping with a new woman every day, blah, blah, blah. But I thought you felt something different for me. I was wrong. I'm not going to make that mistake again. We're just colleagues. Please, let's end this. Let's stop. Now, if you may have noticed, Drew doesn't give a about boundaries. Again, I haven't even mentioned how many times he was like overtly saying, cheat on your fiance with me. But now that she's single and he once had her and now he thinks he's in love with her, he's like, well, I'm not gonna listen to that. So he commences to do just a myriad of just the most off-putting acts of affection. He hires a freelance band to annoy her every time she goes into work and sing love songs to her, which again, how are y'all able to do this in the office? He constantly sends flowers with cards in them that say, I think, disturbing things in it. There was one, he was like, if I jump in front of like a car, and will you visit me at the hospital? Would you feel bad if I died or something? I know they were trying to be like, oh, he's so wacky. And I'm like, I know this is supposed to be comedy, but I don't know. There's some crazy motherfuckers. I don't joke like that. He buys her jewelry. He hires like a jet to spell out Kate and Drew in the sky. Oh, he convinces a nun to go to her and, quote, speak to her about forgiveness to try to get her to take him back. Oh. And then at one point, he actually calls her, very overtly flirts with like sexual flirting with her.
Kate, what are you wearing? Bet you were thinking about me before I called, huh?
And she still doesn't like you, like as a person. That's incredibly fucking weird. But he goes straight to like sexual conversation. And at one point he says something along the lines of like, I still have a pair of your underwear in my home.
I just wanted to tell you that, I still have them.
You still have what?
Your black underwear. Yeah, sometimes I sleep with them under my pillow. I pretend it's your legs.
Like serial killer trophy? Like, what? For some reason, we as the audience are meant to follow this and think, wow, he's really doing what it takes to get her back. He must really love her. Babe, you're giving serial killer, like actual, like skinning me alive and wearing my face type realness. There is also a scene that I consider not even mentioning, but I just have to bring up this particular line because I fucking hate it. Dee Dee comes into Drew's office and like chews him out for treating Kate poorly. She basically says that she deserves a real man. And he was like, I am a man. And she was like, no, there's boys, Billy, who like never grow up, never get their lives together. There's guys who are just like bachelor. And then there's men who are loving and communicative and will be their solid foundation for her. She deserves a man. And this says,
Sometimes a guy can't become a man until he meets the right woman.
turn the shit off. I know Miss Emma Chase thought she, or whoever wrote the script for this, thought they were spitting. You haven't met the right woman, so that's the reason why you can't like take responsibility for your incredibly weird and coercive and abusive actions, because I haven't met somebody else who takes that responsibility away from me. And until I meet a good woman, I'm still gonna be a dick, because it's not my responsibility to be a better person. It's yours. And if I haven't met that theoretical person yet, I'm still gonna be trash. But anyway, after seemingly weeks and weeks of harassing Kate in various ways to get her to take him back, she finally agrees to have dinner with him because she says, it seems as though you haven't been able to let things go because we didn't have like a closure. It just kind of stopped abruptly. So perhaps if we had like a conversation in which we really ended things, perhaps you can leave me the fuck alone. So he makes her dinner, they have this dinner, and at some point she just isn't mad at him anymore. Like, she's like, I forgive you. And I'm like, why? What'd he do? What has he done to get this forgiveness that you didn't want to give him at 8 a.m.? Like, what? Did you just need coffee and a bagel to be like, maybe that's a little too hard. Now I want a coffee. Now I want a bagel. Bro, I will up a bagel right now, sir. But yeah, they dance. She says something along the lines of like, Billy, the man I was dating more than half my life, when we broke up, I was like, But you, guy I've known for a few months, who's never treated me well the entire time we've known each other. If you hurt me, I don't know if I could go on. Ooh, I know that's supposed to be romantic or whatever, like her being vulnerable and whatnot. But my PSA is never love nobody that much. Love them, feel for them. But if you get into the point that if they leave, you will die, like you will crumble and cease to exist as a person, therapy is great. And if you can't afford therapy, there's a bunch of pretty decent self-help people. So you got to be careful because some of them are wacko. I would argue that's not love. That's just codependency. He walks her into this like makeshift office that at some point he had made. I don't know when he did that, but it's an office for both of them. It's like, it's so weird. There's a bunch of like very personal like photos and stuff in the office as well that apparently he had stolen from her office and got photocopied so that she could have said photos in the office here at his apartment. Wasn't she rejecting you outright and planning to have this dinner for closure just this morning? But because this is a movie / a book, we're not supposed to question that terrifying weirdness, and she just, and we gotta end the movie soon, I guess. So she just kind of says like, wow, even though I had all these very legitimate reasons to dislike you, I suddenly no longer think of you as the personification of a yeast infection. I think of you as like this wonderful guy that I would like to continue to be with. And that's the movie. Yeah, the entire movie, he's awful and incredibly reactive and manipulative and childish. If I'm not mistaken, the drama of the second book is that there was another miscommunication because they don't know how to open their mouths. And he like either cheats on her out of this reactivity that he seems to have that we've seen in this movie, or he wants to cheat on her or tries to cheat on her, but he loves her so much so his dick doesn't work or something. I remember that. And she was there. She like saw him getting a lap dance from somebody in his apartment. And then she gets pregnant and then loses the baby. Right? Anybody that read the second book, let me know if that's what happens, because I think that's what happened. And this is what I mean. If you met this nigga and he was like that in the first book, and guess what? He's still like that in the second. That's the only good thing they've done in this book. Only good thing they did in this series is show that he's still trash, but we supposed to want them back together by the end of the second book? No, ma'am. Just wipe your pussy clean, get tested, and there's no proof that anybody's been in there. I've always said that if you leave without any bugs that you can't get rid of, and you leave without kids, you a virgin. Roll your pussy miles back and just keep a stepping. Leave this alone. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to comment that down below. Follow me, like the video, all that. Subscribe, do the things that people do on the internet. What was I gonna say? Follow me on all my social media. I'm sorry, I have one brain cell left. Follow me on all my social media, Instagram, Twitter, both of which are KennieJD. And I will see you guys next time.